Donald Trump will become the 47th president of the United States.
A federal judge, along with special counsel Jack Smith, have dropped the January 6th witch hunt case against Donald Trump now that he will become the 47th president of the United States. And as we know, you cannot prosecute a sitting president. The election interference case against Trump was dropped hours after federal prosecutors filed a motion to dismiss both that case and the Mar-a-Lago documents case against Trump. Judge Tanya Chutkan of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia dismissed the case without prejudice. Now, of course, this should have been dropped. This should have been dismissed months and months and months and months ago. You know, you had millions of taxpayer dollars wasted on this January 6th committee. All these investigations that just kept getting debunked and debunked. You know, Tucker was incredible on exposing a lot of what was on the security cam footage. We saw Nancy Pelosi getting exposed by her own daughter saying, we were responsible for this. We should have been accountable for securing the Capitol, and they didn't.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have.
She denied 10,000 National Guard troops. I think they knew that these cases weren't going to go any far, but, you know, it made good headlines. Trump is a convicted felon, okay? He's trying to overthrow democracy. It makes good headlines. It might swing some voters, you know, in their favor, you know, because Trump is viewed by the mainstream media in this particular way. But we rejected that. We just kept rejecting that. And isn't it interesting that the media is screaming about how much Trump is a criminal, but yet the American people just aren't buying it because we know that the media isn't reliable anymore. The legacy media is dying, and we know that. We don't fall for that anymore. That's why the majority of Americans voted for that to be killed, okay? And I think the ones that especially took more of a beating, I would say, than Trump himself, are the innocent patriots who were politically persecuted for their presence in D.C. Some of them just happened to book a hotel room in D.C. They didn't even set foot inside the Capitol. Just people that happened to be there. One of my good friends, Brandon Straka, he was there filming a video, and yet he was placed under house arrest just simply for his presence there. The people that went into the Capitol, a lot of them were put into months of solitary confinement without trial. Nancy Pelosi's daughter, Alexandra Pelosi, also admitted, without knowing that she was being recorded, that D.C. was too biased to hold a fair trial.
You have politicians every night comparing it to Pearl Harbor, 9/11.
That was just
D.C. And D.C., if you live there, you're like, I am under siege. I see National Guardsmen around here, the local media every day. You can't have a fair trial.
If there was an insurrection, you were supposed to have a plan.
Exactly.
If there was an insurrection, it's the sorriest insurrection in the 20th, 21st century ever. No guns, no plan, people taking selfies.
A guy smoking pot.
What did he do? Okay, what did he do?
He just walked in with the Trump flag in the Senate.
The
media makes you into a monster. I think time is going to remember January 6th differently.
So all of this panic, all of this ruthless vengeance against Donald Trump and their unwavering attempts to gaslight the American people, all of it just ended up being for nothing. All it did was expose them for the cheaters and liars and thieves and criminals that they are, and their efforts to cover up an election that should have been contested, which Trump went through constitutional means to contest. Through a legitimate landslide victory, we overcame this. And I say we because Trump didn't just do this alone. We, the American people, made this possible through our research, through our canvassing door to door, through Elon Musk restoring free speech to the public square. So those of you who didn't think it was possible to drain the swamp, to root out the corruption, for the deep state to be upended. You did it with your vote. Isn't that amazing? They tried to criminally push him out of his position of power, but we took it back. We took it back, folks. The only question that remains now that Trump has been exonerated is, will the January 6th defendants be pardoned? Those that were politically persecuted, will justice be served? Will the true January 6th reckoning happen? And the ones that were inciting violence on that day, the French, will they be held accountable? That's what I would like to know. For those of you who don't remember, Jacob Chansley, also known as the QAnon shaman, this was him right in front of the door of the Capitol telling people to go home.
We're going to obey our president. We're going to do as he asks. Respect the landmarks. Respect the Capitol.
I don't remember that from the J6 committee investigations either. Tucker did a fantastic story on Jacob Chansley right before he got fired from Fox News, which revealed the security cam footage of Jacob Chansley just being allowed to walk into the Capitol with the police officers present.
Dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us into this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th.
Now, how does this not tell you it's a coordinated effort to create a psyop? Okay? How does this not tell you that? You would not have police officers just standing there, allowing them to do all of this, unless they are trying to make it appear that these patriots, these people with Trump gear in the Capitol, are domestic terrorists. That's what it was all along, folks. It was all designed to be a charade right from the get-go. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't legitimate Trump supporters in there. I believe that there were paid agitators. You know, they could have been from the intelligence agencies, they could have been Antifa, different groups that I believe were instigating the violence. And then there were emotionally enticed true Trump supporters following them into the Capitol and believed that they were part of some really historic rebellion. I could definitely see, good people being emotionally enticed into doing that probably weren't violent, but they knew how pissed off people were about the 2020 election results. They knew that they could entice people to go along with this charade. And that is unfortunately how this situation was blown out of proportion. But will those instigators be held accountable? And that is exactly what Tucker Carlson touches on in this interview with the former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund, getting his reaction to the bizarre behavior by Ray Epps, who is believed to be a Fed that was instigating violence on January 6th.
It's about the behavior of some of the people in the crowd who were instigating others to break the law, and who weren't arrested. And, given our facial recognition software capabilities, hard to believe they can't be found. And I would specifically cite a man called Ray Epps, who's now a hero on the left and funded by the Democratic Party, et cetera. But take the politics out of it. What is that? Here you have a guy on camera repeatedly saying, we're going into the Capitol.
We need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
And he's not in jail when people who didn't go into the Capitol are in jail. What do you make of that?
Again, that's something I actually addressed in the book. It's funny, there's a lot in here. So my concern with that, and I look at it from a chief of police point of view, is you have somebody that's down, and I believe he's right near the old executive office building on the 5th, the day before January 6th, talking to a group of people, talking about, we have to get into the building, we have to get in the building. And then the next day to see him at what's called the Pennsylvania Avenue Gate. It's one of the two fence lines I had down at the West Front. And he's there, and he clearly sees the banner, the metal crowd control barriers that are up with the signs saying restricted, and so he knows that's a restricted area. And he's up there, and you see him lean in, and he whispers in somebody's ear, and he covers his mouth in such a way so you can't read his lips or anything, whispers in somebody's ear, and that person moments later is attacking my officers. That's suspicious as hell to me. It raised a lot of concerns.
What is that?
And what's interesting is I believe...
and that's verified. The person into whose ear he whispered...
Yeah, I think if you watch the video, you see that, and that person immediately go and start pulling on the gate and start, fighting with the officers. And what's interesting is I believe he went on 60 Minutes. And on 60 Minutes, what he said was he went up to the officer and he told that officer, these officers are on our side. Don't hurt these officers. I believe that was pretty much not verbatim. But don't hurt these officers, they're on our side. Don't hurt these officers. Well, if that's the case, why would you cover your mouth and not yell it to everybody? Because it didn't seem like that protester was the only one that was possibly going to be hurting the officers. You had a whole bunch of people next to him. Why wouldn't he tell it to the whole group?
I don't know. I know that Epps is being encouraged by partisan Democrats to sue people who raise these questions, but they're fair questions, and I'm going to raise them anyway. How, given that tape, could the January 6th committee defend Ray Epps, which they did? Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
It's a fair question. Why was Ray Epps given a slap on the wrist? I think he was given like a few months of probation, and then that was pretty much it. While all these other innocent patriots, spent months in solitary confinement. Jacob Chansley, who was escorted by Capitol police officers in the Capitol, he spent all this time in solitary confinement when he was trying to tell people to go home peacefully. Let's listen to our president.
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order.
It's a two-tier justice system, folks. We voted it out, and now we have to see if those people will be held accountable, the ones weaponizing this system. And I really believe that now that these charges have been dropped, it sets a precedent. Now, of course, I was disappointed by Matt Gaetz withdrawing from the Attorney General nomination, but I still think there is a future for him in Trump's administration. Either he runs for governor of Florida, that would be still pretty awesome, or in the Trump administration, he could be appointed special counsel to go after the corruption in D.C., to go after the Mueller types and the Fauci types and the election fraud. We have Tulsi Gabbard cracking down on the intelligence agencies. We have RFK cracking down on Health and Human Services. Are we going to have Matt Gaetz cracking down on Jack Smith, on Christopher Wray? Very exciting, folks. But more than anything, I really do want to see these January 6th defendants pardoned. I really hope Trump does that sooner rather than later once he gets inaugurated. I believe a lot of good things are in store for us. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all in another video very soon.